As if paying attention to the Ballon d'Or hadn't become tiring enough, now we have the FIFA The Best Awards. The best! Well, we've had them for a few years, but they went to a whole other level of ridiculousness when they unveiled their Team of the Year this year. I don't know what this video is. I may rant a bit, I may provide some alternative options, I may get off topic at times, I just felt something, so let's record. I won't be talking about the individual awards like men's and women's best player of the year, as I did a big video on how troublesome individual awards can be already. Quick synopsis, how do you quantify a game-saving tackle versus 5 goals that one of the top strikers may score all in one match against a lower league opposition in the cup, but they still count towards their, wow, look at how many goals they scored tally? Or how do you quantify the worth of 4 or 5 saves that Ter Stegen or Alisson may make in order to keep their team within a shot of equalizing or going on to win versus the sheer amount of goals scored by an attacker. Again, in some cases, just running up their stats when the match is already won. The odds are stacked heavily against the keepers and the defenders, and while I agree that scoring goals is mega important and I love it, so is keeping them out. So I'm kind of done with the individual awards aspect of things. And after seeing this Team of the Year, I am also done with the Teams of the Years. That might not stop me from making them myself though, because I am never wrong. I'm sorry, but if your team doesn't win a single trophy, then how can you even flirt with the idea of being included in the Team of the Year? You must have done something outstanding in order to be considered if your team didn't win a single trophy. A guy I think could have been considered a few years ago was of course Ciro Immobile, 29 goals in 33 Serie A appearances, scored in the 17-18 season, as well as 12 more in the cup competitions, 41 goals in 47 appearances. Lazio only won the Supercoppa. I'll get to Super Cups later probably, but his individual performance was enough to merit at least being in the conversation, you know? Even if his team didn't have that much success. He wasn't included in the final 11, and that was probably ultimately the right decision. But you see what I'm trying to say here? You're telling me Sergio Ramos, Marcelo, and Modric were in the top 1 or 2 in their respective positions in this past season, despite Real Madrid having an awful trophyless season besides the Club World Cup, if you want to count that one, but I have a whole video on how that has lost more and more shine with every year that passes, and FIFA doesn't even like it either, so they're revamping the format. So yeah, those 3 in the top 2 of their respective positions for this past season, no, they weren't. Nobody on Real Madrid, I'm sorry, but nobody on Real Madrid deserves to be anywhere near that starting 11 based on last season's performances. And Real Madrid fans would agree with that, don't get me wrong. In the past, absolutely get those players in there. They won 3 trophies in a row, 3 European trophies in a row. They deserved it. But their time has come and gone, unfortunately. You can't sack 2 managers in one season, finish 19 points off the top, crash out of the Champions League in the round of 16, end up trophyless unless you count the Club World Cup, and still consider that a success, especially for a team like Real Madrid. And let's be real, in Marcelo's case, forget about top 1 or 2 in his position for the entire world, but even just looking at Real Madrid last season, I personally thought that Madrid's defense looked better with Reguilon at left back, but as soon as Zidane returned, he starts playing his boy Marcelo again. No, dude. You cannot do this, FIFA. People already think award shows are a joke, but this team is just... I don't think anyone can look at this team and make a case for, you know, guys like Marcelo. I hate to rip on the guy because Prime Marcelo was one of my favorite players to watch. But for me, based on last season, it had to be Andy Robertson at left back. Not only was he dominant in England, finishing 5th in assists with 11, but he had a couple more assists in the Champions League as well. Plus, here's where he's been completely different from modern Marcelo. He can also defend pretty damn well. He's got it going in both directions. And Modric, if we're talking about the 17-18 season, get him in there all day, but he looked tired for the first half of the season, maybe for the entirety of the season, and rightfully so. It was a long year with a deep run to the World Cup final. That's not to say that he's not a player capable of making this team. He's done it time before, but there is no way he was amongst the best midfielders this past season. Where was Bernardo Silva, a guy who won every single domestic trophy possible for Manchester City, then went ahead and got the player of the tournament in the UEFA Nations League as Portugal won that title? It's a new trophy, yes, but all trophies start somewhere. We don't know what the prestige of the Nations League trophy will be in the future, but Come on, even looking past the Nations League, what a scandal to put someone like Modric in there ahead of someone like Bernardo. In fact, the fact that there isn't a single Manchester City player in the best 11 is a scandal in itself. In exchange for Sergio Ramos, Kimmich, maybe, DFB Pokal and Bundesliga winner, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who had a ton of assists and was integral to Liverpool's Champions League win. I mean, come on. We didn't need a third center back in there. Why was there 3 center backs and a left back, especially at the expense of one of these 2 players? Trent Alexander-Arnold, like his teammate Robertson, absolutely racked up the assists last season with 12 in the Premier League and 3 in the Champions League. Kimmich, same thing. 13 assists in the Bundesliga, 2 in the UCL, and a couple goals to boot. Plus, they both did it defensively when they needed to. Trent Alexander-Arnold less so. When Bayern went through a dip, it sometimes felt like Kimmich was one of the few bright spots, playing in every single Bundesliga match for them. He was there for it all. So, Sergio Ramos is a quality defender that deserves our respect as a footballer for his achievements. But can we say he had a better season than these 2 players? I don't know, man. Sustained. Oh, then there's the case of Sterling versus Hazard. Sure, Hazard was pretty much integral, I keep using that word, alongside Giroud to Chelsea's Europa League triumph this past season, and he put in a few blinding performances domestically, but is that one Europa League triumph greater than Sterling and his contribution to City's domestic treble, quadruple, if you want to count the Community Shield? But basically, I don't tend to count that as a trophy when I do the trophy counts for clubs. I don't count Super Cups and Community Shields. And you don't have to agree with me, that's totally fine, we can disagree. But the reason why I don't count them is because if that was to be your only trophy in a season and you didn't win another piece of silverware, I don't think you would count that as a successful season in most cases, you know? Unless of course you're a smaller team that doesn't win trophies very often, and then in your next season you beat the league leaders, or the league winner, for the Super Cup or Community Shield or something like that. Like Wigan, for example, when they beat City for the FA Cup, if they had gone on to win the Community Shield as well, hell yeah, man. Power to them. That could be a highlight of your season if you're a Wigan fan. But like, if all Benfica won was the Supertaça this season, that's not a successful season in my opinion. So anyways, as I was saying, you could make a case for Sterling over Hazard, though there were times when it felt as if Hazard was a more impactful player for Chelsea, as in if he didn't get them over the line, nobody would. Sterling has this X factor to a degree as well, as he was crucial for City on many occasions, but I guess the impactfulness is one of the things that they have to consider in these situations. And with Sterling, you felt like they had a good enough surrounding cast that they would have been okay. And wow, okay, I think I'm done now. Basically, I just wanted to say that this FIFA 11, the best team, was a bit of a sham. You could make arguments for or against other players in there, but those 3 shone the brightest. Glaring inclusions that don't make any sort of logical sense, and I'm done with teams of the year, or at least the ones that aren't my own, haha, for content reasons. What do you think?